Thank you. I would now like to ask Mr. Callum Patterson, as you all know, as our club piper, to propose the next toast. So, Callum, over to you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Croupier, fellow members and honoured guests, it's a pleasure, albeit a daunting one, to perform my first toast to this fantastic club. However, like the speakers before me, I'd first like to thank the committee of the club for putting arrangements in place to allow us to have the supper tonight. As many of you know through my piping, I'm involved in many burn suppers at this time of year. However, this year, this is my only supper, and I'm sure that you'll agree that with this being the longest consecutive running Burns Club, it was imperative that tonight went ahead. So thank you to all the committee members for all your hard work. It's certainly been a different year for most of us, one that we couldn't have foreseen sitting in the community centre last year. Who would have thought that you wouldn't be allowed to walk into a bank without wearing a mask? The biggest difference for me this year, however, is that my belt and the buckle for this kilt appear to be maintaining the strict 2 metre rule. It's getting tighter and tighter, and as they say, life is like a box of chocolates. It ends sooner for fat folk. In fairness, as you'll see in the media, the last year's been a lot harder for some people than it has been for others. Take Andy Davidson, for example. He's coping really well, as women have been socially distancing for him for years now. I've been one of the lucky ones. I've not contracted COVID, nor has the isolation really bothered me. In fact, I like women the same way I like my COVID. 19, breathtaking and easily spread. However, it's not so good if you've got to go to the GP a couple of weeks later. It's all fun and games, but you have to start seriously questioning everybody around about you when the panic buying started. We ran out of toilet roll pretty near the start of the first lockdown, and I started using lettuce leaves as an alternative. I ended up with a sore arse, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. Now, 2020 has been a hard year for everyone. 2021 sees the 30th birthday of my wife. So I purchased a world map from Amazon. I gave her a dart and said, throw this, wherever it lands, that's where I'm taking you when this pandemic ends. It turns out we're spending 2 weeks behind the fridge. Gentlemen, as mentioned tonight, my toast is to the land of cakes. Now I suspect, like many, I understood this toast to be to Scotland. However, I didn't know its origin. Historically speaking, different baked goods were referred to differently across the Celtic nations. However, in Scotland, if you asked for bread, that meant you only got a slice. You had to ask for a loaf in order to get the full thing. Whereas the term cake meant an unsweetened baked or confectionery good such as an oatcake or a pancake. And as oats were the staple crop, Scotland became known as the land of cakes. In the late Captain's Grouse Peregrinations Through Scotland, Burns wrote, "Here, land of cakes and brother Scots, frae Maiden Kirk to Johnny Groats. If there's a hole in all your coats, at end you tent it. A child's a man, you taking notes, and faith, he'll pretend it." Now, I've been a member of this club for quite a few years, and as a result, I've been lucky enough to hear many great toasts to the land of cakes. Although performing a toast is never easy, when toasting a country with such a rich history as Scotland, there's plenty of routes that you can take. Tonight, I'm going to toast to Scotland's present and its future, rather than to toasting to its past. Now, I've told quite a few jokes about COVID, but we really can't underestimate the severity of what's been going on for the past year. I know Jamie's going to speak a wee bit later about our NHS and the frontline workers. However, Scotland as a whole nation has been galvanised in the face of adversity. Since March, Scottish manufacturers have produced more than 616 million items of PPE, which have been issued to the health and social care sectors across the country, and work continues to ensure resilient supply chains locally. It's not a great surprise that a country with such an innovative past has been involved in finding solutions to barriers faced in certain communities, such as helping to ensure transparent face coverings that support lip reading are commercially available to all, providing an alternative to opaque coverings. A huge variety of activity has also been undertaken by Scottish businesses, from the testing work within the Lighthouse Labs, including the one in Glasgow University, to the development of alternative vaccines and, crucially, important therapeutic treatments for both Indigenous and global investors. A lot of people also won't know that it's Livingston-based specialist vaccine company Valneva who have entered into an agreement with the UK government to supply 60 million doses of a vaccine that they're currently working on, Meanwhile, in Stirling, it's Symbiosis that manufactured the supply of the AstraZeneca vaccine for its use in clinical trials. But we're not just talking about major corporations here. What about our very own local businesses? What about Ronald Stalker & Son offering free delivery services to all, opening on Sundays to ease footfall and prevent anxiety? What about J&R McInnes, the local paper shop, again offering free delivery services to the vulnerable and those isolating, including a card machine to allow contactless payments at your very own door? Our local businesses have went above and beyond to help us in this time of need, and it's no surprise that both of these businesses were recognised in the Local Heroes High Street Hero Awards. We're lucky to have them. However, amidst all of that, the scientific breakthroughs, the continued innovation, the local camaraderie came the greatest achievement, and by some distance. Scotland managed to beat Serbia in the playoffs, and after 22 years, we managed to qualify for the Euros, even if it did take 120 minutes and a penalty shootout. Not only do we have that to look forward to, but Scotland over the years has reinvented itself from an industrial past to a tourism hub. We all know about our country's beauty, but what about its events? We have the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, Glasgow Celtic Connections, the Military Tattoo, the World Pipe Band Championships, the Glasgow Film Festival, Braemar Gathering, Transmit Music Festival, that's the one at the Place Tree Park, various Hogmanay New Year street parties. You're hard pushed to find a weekend where there's not a whisky festival, and believe me, I know. And we've also got a thing in January called a Burn Supper, which some of you might have heard of. We may live in strange times at the moment, but in typical times in Scotland, there's always something on, and it's no great surprise that people are desperate to travel to our nation. Mr. Chairman, I'm as proud of anyone of Scotland's past, of its John Logie Baird, Alexander Graham Bell, Alexander Fleming, of its Forth Road Bridge, Glenfinnan Viaduct and many castles. It's Dougie MacLean, Jerry Rafferty and Andy Stewart. It's Jackie Stewart, Dennis Law and Eric Liddell. However, I'm just as proud of the investors and inventors in its current life sciences, of the others producing PPE, of the Queensferry Crossing, the Falkirk Peel, the Kelpies, and most importantly, the Dorey Bypass, of Amy MacDonald, Paolo Nutini, of Lewis Capaldi, Andy Murray, Chris Hoy and Andy Robertson, even though he's a Celtic fan. We come from a nation with an incredibly rich past, an equally rich present, and I'm in no doubt the future will follow suit. Gentlemen, will you join me in raising a glass to Scotia, to Alba, to Caledonia, to our past, our present and our future. Gentlemen, to the land of cakes.
Land of cakes. Thanks, Colin.